All right. What's going on, guys? Farzine Vasugian here with you, recapping the first half between the Chiefs and Cardinals. A fairly solid first half for the Chiefs, and kind of an up and down game where uh, the ones got off to another slow start, but they had more opportunities in this game than they did in last week's game. So eventually the ones picked it up and we saw them get into the end zone. And some of the ones stayed on the field and played with Shane Buechele. And so they got another touchdown out of that. Shane Buechele we'll get into in a moment because he's had kind of an interesting game. He's got a very interesting stat line that I think some people need to be aware of. But in terms of the ones, I think a little bit of the concern I had is some of the drops in this one. You saw Justin Watson before he got his touchdown. He dropped a pass. Rashee Rice dropped a pass. I think Blake Bell also had an issue there. It was Blake Bell or Noah Gray? I can't remember. I think it was maybe both of them at one point. I can't really remember, but felt like there was some a lot of drops in that first half. So something that the pass catching unit definitely needs to improve upon. And I think there were times where Mahomes felt like he was under pressure a little bit and tried to get rid of the ball sooner than he wanted to. So there was a little bit of that going on in the first half. But the Chiefs found a way to move the football ultimately. This is something that this team does. Robert says Kelce dropped the shovel pass. And I don't even know, I don't think Kelce was ready for that, because if you watch that play, and they replayed it a couple of times where Mahomes, he was dealing with that blitz unexpectedly, so he just wanted to get rid of it fast. And I just don't think Kelce was ready for that at all. So I think there are some positives and negatives here. But looking at Rashee Rice, I know I mentioned very early on he did have that drop, but ever since that drop, he's played pretty damn well. 7 catches for 85 yards, by far the leading receiver in this game, and it's not even close. Everybody else in this game from both Arizona and Kansas City has either 1 catch or just 2 catches. Meanwhile, Rashee Rice has really been getting his reps in this game. He's been targeted 8 times. The next highest pass catcher, you would have to go to Arizona. Ingram's had 3, Dortch and Moore had 3. In terms of Kansas City, MVS had 2 targets. Kelce had 2 targets. Noah Gray, Justin Ross, CEH, Sky Moore all had 2 targets in this game, but Rashee Rice, 4 times of that in this game. So again, not the most dominant first half that you would have liked to see with the ones, especially against a team like Arizona that's not expected to do very well this season. But I think with what you're seeing from Rashee Rice, being a rookie and a guy who might not be very high on the depth chart to begin with for the season, he's doing pretty well. And I think he's definitely making a case for himself to not just be, listen, he's a second round pick. He's going to be on the team. It would be a surprise if he wasn't. But he is looking pretty good. And I think he's trying to make a case for himself as to why he might or should rather get more significant snaps this year on offense. So we're seeing some of that from him, which is really good. Had some of that with Patrick Mahomes, had some of that with Shane Buechele. Shane Buechele, I was really surprised, and I pointed this out on social media. I said Shane Buechele starting, or I shouldn't say starting, but coming on the field before Blaine Gabbert. That's a very interesting call. I don't know if that was predetermined that the Chiefs would have Blaine Gabbert as the primary backup for the first game and then Shane Buechele for the second game. Maybe there's some sort of a competition with the backup quarterback job that we just did not expect to see. But they have that going on right now. And Shane Buechele played pretty damn well, 10 of 10 for 105 yards. And obviously he had that, what was it? I think it was a 14-yard or a 15-yard run to score that touchdown there to make it 14-0 at the time. So that was pretty good to see. Shane Buechele has really kind of been an unknown. We haven't seen a whole lot of him because it's mainly been Chad Henne. We've seen Shane Buechele, but playing more with the third and fourth stringers in past preseason games, whereas here he is now, played with some of the ones out there. So, hopefully it doesn't happen, but God forbid if something were to happen to Patrick Mahomes this season, there's a little bit of hope there that Shane Buechele can find a way to maybe move the football with the starting unit. Hey, listen, I remember when Patrick Mahomes was out in 2019, you had Matt Moore filling in. A lot of people were unfamiliar with Matt Moore, not really sure if this is really going to go well for Kansas City. He actually did pretty well in those 2.5 games that he filled in for Patrick Mahomes moving the football. So I think things like that are definitely encouraging signs for the Chiefs as they lead at halftime, 17-7. I'll read some of your guys' comments here. Josiah, hope I said your name right. They will settle in. Give it time. We're going to get together with the drops. Yeah, I hope so. Things like drops, field goal misses, punting, snapping, those are things that I think you can take seriously in the preseason. So, does a field goal kicker's ability change by a lot from preseason to the regular season? And maybe ability is not the word, but I guess just the expectations in general. So we'll see. Can't stop the run on 3rd and 6. Yeah, that was pretty good. We got two running quarterbacks playing in this game after the starters came off. Yeah, that's pretty good. Doug says O-line looked solid. Mahomes on target drops. Rice and Buechele look good. Yeah, the offensive line, I didn't really talk much about the offensive tackles in the first pregame live stream. I like what I'm seeing from the offensive tackles. We didn't get to see a lot of those guys last week because the ones were on the field for a very, very short drive. Now we're seeing both Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith for a significant amount of time. I think Donovan Smith playing really well. Jawan Taylor, I know he had that penalty at one point that the Cardinals ended up declining because they didn't need it anyway. But overall, they've looked pretty good. I like what I'm seeing from them, and I hope that carries over into the regular season, because if it does, man, you've already got a big upgrade. And again, that's not saying much given who you had last year with OBJ and Wiley, but those two guys led the NFL at offensive tackle in pressures allowed. So, even if those guys are just average, Smith and Taylor, that is, if those guys are just average, that's going to bode well for Patrick Mahomes, because keep in mind, he won the MVP last year almost unanimously with those two bad offensive tackles. So that would be a big change for him. Why start Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Not that good. He's not that good. He don't get that many yards on run plays. Yeah, it's interesting to see them play Clyde Edwards-Helaire a lot more. I mean, first of all, Isaiah Pacheco is out. And Jerick McKinnon's not a guy that you want to use primarily. The Chiefs have been saving him more for third down situations. Also, he's more of a situational running back than he is a down for down running back. But we did see a lot of him in the second half, the last 2 years, and in the playoffs. So I think that's kind of the role the Chiefs want with Jerick McKinnon. They don't want to use him too much in the preseason and early in the regular season. So that might be why you're seeing a lot more of Clyde Edwards-Helaire now than expected. Yeah, a little bit, Teresa. I agree. Yeah, this is a good point, Justin. I've seen some people bring this up on social media. They're trying to put Clyde Edwards-Helaire to get another team to make a trade for him. Yeah, I can see that being the case. Oh yeah, me too, man. I think that was like the most exciting re-sign last offseason, and then this offseason when he came back, and he came back a lot sooner than people expected. Keep in mind, last year he signed re-signed, I should say, during the summer. This year he signed a little bit, or re-signed again. I got that wrong. He re-signed a little bit sooner, right after the draft, and a lot of people were ecstatic to see him come back. Speaking of coming back, we might be coming back pretty soon in the game. So just a couple more comments here. D-line needs pressure. Felix has to keep contained. Game 2 of the preseason last year, Buechele came in before Henning. I think he is still going to be QB3. Okay, I didn't realize that. Hey, keep in mind, these preseason games, a lot of them are not that memorable. So that could be part of it. I'll take your word for it, though, Joe. Yeah, James has been kind of interesting in the preseason so far. He really has. The wide receivers have been very interesting to me. I know this has not been the best effort from them with the drops, and the tight ends too were involved with that. But very, very intriguing position group so far in the preseason. Even though Buechele is probably better than Gabbard, Big Red likes having a veteran QB as a backup. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about that as well. So We'll see if listen, with the new rule, they might keep both quarterbacks. MVS is one of the reasons we went to the Super Bowl. Oh, you're responding to someone else. Okay, we got some arguing in the comments. That's always lovely. I don't know. I'm not convinced anymore. I think Clyde actually has looked pretty good. I mean, I don't know if he's looked great in this game. I mean, he's not playing like that first-round draft pick. It's hard to watch Clyde Edwards-Helaire and evaluate him because you remember he's a first-round draft pick, and so you want him to play better than what he's playing at right now. Right now, he's just a solid guy, I think. You think Michel's going to be the main backup, Michael? Okay. Got some interesting opinions about that. A lot of people think Michel. A lot of people still think it's going to be Gabbert. Joseph, the announcers, talked about it when Michel came in. Okay. All right. I'll be honest. I'm on my phone talking to you guys, posting whatnot, so I can't say I give my full attention to those guys, so I appreciate that. Let's see. Rice getting a ton of looks and catches. Yeah, he really is. I've said this several times and I'll say it again. Second round draft picks, especially if you draft a wide receiver, those are guys that you can generally give a lot of playing time to. But the Chiefs have so many wide receivers right now that maybe Rashee Rice might not play much early on, at least. You have MVS. KT is expected to play in week 1. Those are your expected starting receivers. You also have Sky Moore, who was your second round pick, draft pick last year. So Rashee Rice is kind of in a very odd spot where, yeah, he is a second round pick, but might not see a whole lot. All right. I see a lot of other comments here. Unfortunately, I cannot get to all of them. Big thanks to all of you guys who did comment. Come back after the game. We are going to do a post-game live stream with your guys' call-ins. So make sure you guys are ready. Get your FaceTimes ready for your phone, your laptop, however you want to call in. And we'll do a post-game call-in show. It'll also serve as a post-game recap show for the podcast. All right, I am out of here, guys. I will talk to you after the game. Enjoy the second half.